Hello, welcome again to another episode of Self Discovery. And today we have Maimah Karmo today live in the building. And this amazing, phenomenal woman is here to talk to about us about her life story, what brought her to be who she is today, all the amazing work that she's doing in the world. And I'm just excited and honored to have you here. And my fellow African sister in the building. Let's
Yes,
go.
yes.
My gosh.
Africa in the house.
Yes, we are in the building. And one thing about African people, the resilience is real. Seriously, no matter what we go through. So I'm gonna go ahead and read a little bit of the bio. So Maimah Karmo is the founder of Tigerlily Foundation and 18-year survivor of breast cancer. On February 2006, on the 28th at 4:45 p.m., Maimah was diagnosed with stage 2 triple negative breast cancer. She had no family history and was 32 years old. While undergoing second round of chemotherapy, she made a promise to God that if she survived, she would create an organization to educate, empower, advocate for the support of young women affected by breast cancer. After her second treatment, Tigerlily Foundation was born. Tigerlily provides breast health, educational empowerment, wellness, and transformational programs to young women and works to end disparities for age, and stage, and color. After working with Congressman Debbie Weiserman Schultz to develop breast cancer education and awareness requires education young. It's called Early Act. She received a Congressional Black Caucus Leadership and Advocacy Award in 2010 and was appointed to the Federal Advisory Committee on Breast Cancer in Young Women in October 2011, a committee established by the Affordable Care Act on which she worked to develop initiatives to increase knowledge on breast cancer health and breast cancer for women under the age of 45 and those with heightened risk to developing breast cancer and developing the disease. In 2015, she advocated with members of Congress to ensure that young women had access to breast screening. Tigerlily Foundation flew young women to Washington, D.C. to meet with 74 members of Congress. This visit resulted in doubling the House and Senate support for protecting access to life saving screening legislation, which was called PALS. This bill was signed in law within a month, protecting the lives and rights of millions of women. She has worked with the Center of Disease Control to launch national campaigns and has served as an ambassador of the National Women's Health Week and initiatives in the Office of Women's Health. She is a first generation immigrant from Liberia who has experienced disparities firsthand, and she is a leader in the women's health field, creating and implementing national health initiatives for women and girls with a goal to eliminating disparities of age, stage, and color. She also, as in leadership with Tigerlily Foundation, she launched a national and global health initiative focusing on ending disparities through the Inclusion Pledge, partnering with global stakeholders with a call to action to recognize health disparities and social justice issues and working to end disparities for Black women in our lifetime. She is a global thought leader, health advocate, philanthropist, committed to justice and equality for all. And I mean, there's more and more, so many amazing things that this phenomenal woman is doing. And she has been featured on OWN. She has been featured with the Black Caucus and many other things. I mean, just phenomenal. And just paving the way for this new generation of leaders. So I just want to say I am honored and pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here today on Self
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm grateful to have you. You've done so much and you've been through so much. And to have you here, and you're always glowing. I just want to say you're always glowing.
I
Always.
appreciate that, sis. It's integral. It's joy. It's joy. It's peace. It's happiness. It's contentment. I really think that I do all the things, of course, like I work out and take care of myself, eat healthy, But I really feel like when you're happy, like there's no amount of makeup or skincare product that can make you feel better than you are feeling inside. It complements your inner glow. So I receive that wholeheartedly.
We love that. Oh, we're going to go ahead. We usually start with an affirmation. So we're going to pick an affirmation today, and then we're going to discuss that and dive into your story.
Let's do it.
Today's affirmation says, I communicate with ease and grace. People are willing to embrace what I have to say.
Perfect for the conversation.
So, what does that mean to you?
When you were reading my bio, discussing the next generation that's that we're paving the way for, it's interesting because we are each the generation that, how do I say this, every generation has to be comfortable in being their best self. And in doing that, at some point you realize you're paving the way for the next generation. When I began Tigerlily, I was 32 years old. I was a baby, and I was scared out of my mind. I was scared to challenge the healthcare system. I was scared to speak on Capitol Hill. I was scared to get on the news. And it was, because I'm actually an introvert, but when you're in your purpose, you speak that purpose because it's in your heart. You can't script what God has prepared in your heart, in your soul. And so, what I find about communication is that, when I first began doing this work, I would watch other speakers and they'd be so confident and jumping around and doing all these things. And I'm like, I don't do that. I don't want to do that. And how do I share my truth? My truth is just this is what it is, right? I speak from my heart. I speak from my belly. I speak from my soul. And I feel like when I'm telling young people, I had a young woman message me, and she wanted me to help to mentor her and give her advice on how to grow her following and her business and her passion. I said, there's no blueprint. The only blueprint is being you. Because when I began this work, there were no other Black women that I knew who were doing what I was doing. And for me, it was like, okay, you have had cancer, you are a cancer survivor. And I'm like, I've had cancer, but I'm more than that. I'm also, an empath. I want to write. I want to empower women to move into their fear and move even when they're afraid, and make their living legacy, make their thoughts and their feelings pave the way for them to grow. Because I didn't have a path that was there for me. I had to pave my own way. So as you were reading that intention statement, I was thinking, wow, communication really is not only about what you say, it's about how you feel about yourself, how you move into the world, how you move in the world, and how you move despite what people say or think, or even what you say or think to yourself. Because I was not always the person that thought, I can do this, I'm going to badass this. I was thinking, these people have degrees and they're so accomplished, and then there's just this me. And I just kept moving. And then one day God showed, where he showed to me that I was never just me. And even when people who are watching, young women who are watching, young men, anybody watching this, you think that, I'm just me. I want to be like them. Don't do that. You don't want to be like anybody else. Your best communication is learning to understand yourself, embracing yourself, and walking in your own path and your own truth. That's the best way to communicate, what God put you on this earth for, that only you and only you can do.
Wow. Whew. You just warmed my heart. Ooh, I got chills. Yes. This is real. And like we always say here on as a yoga therapist, looking at the Yoga Sutras, it always says that sometimes we suffer because we don't know who we are. And you saying that we must understand who we are in order to truly communicate our authenticity is so real, because so many people are placing a mask on something, trying to emulate something else, which is not their true self. So I'm just, it's a blessing to hear that. It's like a refresher to let people know that, it's okay to be who you are, and you have everything that you need to really convey your message to the people out there,
And to
which,
me,
yeah.
my biggest superpower is being myself, and
Mm.
being vulnerable in that self, and asking people to be vulnerable too, right? Because everybody wears a mask. I was watching something on in Instagram yesterday. There was a Black woman talking about when she made it to a certain level, she thought, well, how do I present in this level? What do I have to wear to be in this level? How do I behave like a CEO? What do I say? How do I do? Who do I roll with and run with? And I was like, there's all this thing about when I get here, I have to be a certain way. And I feel like the blessing is that we don't have to do all that. Don't put a mask on. The world is teaching us to hide our vulnerability, to hide our truth. Not only is it exhausting, but it's not real. Even in relationships, people can't love you if you don't love yourself. They can't see you actually if you don't love yourself. They can't see who you are if they can't. How can they love you if they can't see the truth of who you are? So like, you can tell somebody, I want to be with you in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or in a business relationship or in an intimate relationship. But when you're not presenting as yourself, how can they know who they're interacting with? So I found the more that my meditation practice and my prayer time is such an important time in the morning. Like the more I come in tune with myself and intimate with myself, the more I can present as myself. And I'm finding that when I do that, I don't leave any interaction where I feel like I wish I had done this or that, because I'm vulnerable all the time. And I'm not perfect. I'm not a public speaker. I didn't practice public speaking. I didn't go to school for certain things. I used to be like, I need to be like that or like that. And I one time I saw Felicia Rashad speak at the CBC, I think it was. It's either is that or some event honoring Colin Powell. We're both getting an award. And I was like, I'm with General Colin Powell getting an award. And how I met him and I was sitting next to him, I'm like, oh my, holy, like, you know, WTF. And then I had to get up and receive the award at some point. And Felicia Rashad was speaking, and she just got up there and she leaned into the audience and she just spoke. She didn't do theatrics. She wasn't running around the place. She wasn't booming. She just was. And I thought she's just being her beautiful, authentic self. And she actually gave me a good blueprint for, because people came on the stage and talked and said all kinds of things, but what she did is people could feel her. And I thought I want people to feel the love in my heart when I leave a room, when I'm in a room. I want to be like wrapped in that, and that's kind of been the thing that I've most clung to, is being loved, being vulnerable, being authentic, and being true to me. And I feel like when you give yourself permission to be yourself, and others can be that too. And the thing that I love the most when I meet people and they see me speaking and they come up to me afterwards, they say that because you did that, it allowed me to feel free to be me as well. And that is something that is so beautiful, right? So beautiful.
That is lovely. I mean, you definitely leave an impact. You left an impact on me when I saw you at the Spectrum Circle Awards, where we were getting an award there, and to see a fellow sister over there just doing that and what you went through, and you are still just like uncovering so many layers and showing the world like, this is me. I just love it. Everything that you do. Even with Brief TV. Oh my God. Like
Oh, you watched that? Oh,
Brief TV, just allowing people to just take a moment to just breathe with you and that connection. And I think as the world, as we are, I feel call this the year of the unveiling. People were peeling back the layers and we're seeing the truth about everything and doing a lot of unlearning. But to take a moment to breathe is so much freedom and liberation, especially with so much of this noise from the outside world. To take a moment to tune in and connect in community, I think that's so powerful. What inspired you to create the Breathe TV and just interview all these different amazing people in the walks of life? Talk to us about that.
well, when I learned I had breast cancer, in any woman, any man, anybody going through, like when you're told you have a disease, like your body, you stop breathing. You just kind of like your body constricts. You kind of like. And so in the whole process of, oh, you have cancer, there's all this stuff. There was a sense of like overwhelming urgency and fear, and the whole, even the healthcare providers it was very like fearsome, right? And I realized that through that whole process, that whole year, I wasn't breathing. I was just like in a state of just utter fear. And I thought, what would it be like for someone to get told, um, you have breast cancer, but give me your hands. Like, let me hold your hand. I got you. Let me hold you. Just breathe. Just breathe. Just breathe. And as you're breathing, you're connecting, you're grounding, you're feeling each other. And you're realizing that as you and that person exchange air, breath, and hearts are beating together in this space, you realize that you're not alone, that you're being held by people, energy, spirits, whatever, that are, bigger and larger, but that you were part of, you know? And when I got through my journey, I was like, so when I got through that process, I was just overwhelmed, and everything was just so much. I've been having like adrenal issues, and I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't perspire right. My body was all out of whack, and I was like, I got a coach, a life coach. So I had to shift my mindset from the sense of like you're a victim of cancer, or you have cancer, or you're a breast cancer patient, to I am Maimah. I experienced breast cancer. What am I going to do with this? How can this be a catalyst to something bigger? And how do I not let myself be in the fear, but take the fear as this is fear. I feel afraid, but I am not fear. So I had to let a little work on myself. And I thought when I got to the other part of it, I began to breathe and do yoga and meditation and breath work. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what if people could have this feeling of, I'm going through this experience, but I could be more beautiful, stronger, and transformed through this journey and afterwards. But it began with the breath work, being present to where you are now. Because with the cancer or not, we oftentimes will be in the future, like what's going to happen next month and next week. And we never really take time to just be in the moment. And so getting people to just sit in that space and breathe and to know that they can get through this was really powerful. And so when I began pre-TV, I actually began it during the pandemic in my living room, because not only was it about people being overwhelmed before COVID, I had the idea, but during COVID, we were literally like our breaths were at stake. I can't breathe. And then George Floyd murder happened, and it was like, you know what, this feeling of like holding our breath sacred. When you realize like this breath as we're talking, like how beautiful is it that I can talk to you, I can think, that I can blink, I can breathe, my mouth is like, I can emote, I can feel, I can touch my body, and the breath is just coming in and out. It's effortless, right? When you sit back and think about all the things that have to work in our body for us to breathe without even thinking, it just gets you back to center. And so I found that giving that space to patients that I was helping navigate breast cancer was like, if I could do that for them and help them to settle and breathe and to like be with where they are, and then think about who they were more than just a disease, and how could they use that or other things and be a catalyst for even a bigger transformation. It became something that I had to make happen. And so I called a friend of mine. I'm like, listen, I want to launch this TV show. And she's like, we're in a pandemic. I'm like, yeah. And let's just get some TV screens, put it in my house. And she's like, I'm not coming over there. I'm like, I don't want to see you either. So we had them delivered. And then there's one guy who was really brave enough to come videotape the thing. So he was in the room with me. He had a mask on, and he was like, 6 feet away from me. And we had it all set up automated with the, TV screens, the boom thing going back and forth. And then we had the people on the screen, and people got to connect and learn to breathe at a time when the entire world was holding their breath. Right. And that was so powerful. And the patients, like, everybody was like afraid to breathe. And then we had this woman, some were early stage patients, some were metastatic, which means stage 4, which means they were going to die. And some didn't even pass throughout that pandemic time frame or just after. But they learned to be with their life, in that moment. If I can give someone that gift of like being in their body and in their life and being present to that present of their life, the gift it is, that's something I want to share. And so it's been really beautiful. It's grown. Now we're no longer, of course, in a pandemic. We are taping Breathe TV, across the area, like in different locations, and we're traveling and doing it. And it's been so beautiful seeing women who have something to say and being able to share their truth with other women. And we had a woman who's a stage 4 breast cancer patient who's also a death doula recently. Like, how beautiful is that? We get to be navigated into the world, but no one helps us to navigate to the next nice level of our lives. We've had people who've had leukemia. We've had people who've had cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, but they're not just talking about their cancer journey, but about the things that they learned during and after. There's a quote I love by Wayne Dyer, and I share this a lot. He says, when you're squeezed, what comes out is who you are. And I was like when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? And I was like, what? You squeeze an orange juice comes out, duh. And what he meant is like when you're squeezed in life, like when you squeeze an orange juice come out. People often say that, like cancer changed me, or this thing made me different. Things don't change who you are. When you're squeezed, what comes out is who you are. And so even with the gift of Breed TV, these women come on and they're like, "Oh my God, thanks for the platform. This helped me to think about myself differently and be more empowered." I'm like, no, you already were empowered. You were squeezed and then you came out into who you are. So it's giving them this platform and helping them to restory their story, that this thing didn't make you or break you. You have a gift. You have a beautiful spirit. You have beautiful energy. You have something to give the world that only you can share. And I want to give you that platform to amplify your story and to be able to breathe and be present to the journey, whatever that looks like for you.
Wow, that's beautiful. I watched it. I enjoyed it. And I think it's beautiful what you're doing, especially for cancer patients, because there's so much. A lot of people that suffer from a disease or disease in the body are so much out of the body. So allowing them to reconnect and creating that space for them is so beautiful, and it's so much needed in this world. So many people are suffering. Shout out to my mother-in-law. She's a survivor of cancer, so just working with her with a lot of yoga and stuff has helped her a lot because just the pain alone and just feeling sometimes there's a feel of a burden to people or even asking your or and your throat chakra sometimes is closed off, expressing how you feel and just feeling that disconnect. So reconnecting back to the body is so powerful. So thank you. I said deep down in my heart, I just want to say thank you for doing this work for these people because it's not easy. um
You're welcome. And I just had chemo brain. I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say that even for women who have, you know, gone through the cancer journey and are on the other side of it, um, that trauma never really, it's kind of always sitting there like, hello, because cancer, you can't forget you had cancer.
yeah.
Always be vigilant about it and be aware and be proactive. But that fear of even speaking and saying that, because your family's thinking, she got through this, we're happy, she's alive, we can go back to our lives now, and thank God she's fine. But the person who's had cancer really can never forget about it. And there's trauma. It's trauma, right? One minute you're sitting in your living room, wherever your job, and you get this call, and then this bomb hits you, and there's shrapnel everywhere, and you have to get through the war. There's landmines and bombs and stuff being thrown at you. Then you're on the safe side, maybe, hopefully. And then everyone's like, okay, you're out of the war zone now. You're fine, and they go back to living, and then you're like, but I've been through this traumatic situation. And so for me, the breath work, the breathe TV, we have classes. One class, we have this program called Pure Cat. Women can come do yoga, do sound baths, Zumba dancing. Even I, as a 18-year survivor, I still need to ground myself every day because I'm talking to people all the time
Yes.
who are in trauma, who are needing something, who are overwhelmed, who need that love and support. And so I've learned that if you don't fill your own cup in your own heart, your own vessel, you can't fully give. Plus, you have your own trauma. So it's important as women, as mothers, as wives, lovers, sisters, like we have to take that time to ground ourselves all the time. That's why I call it a practice. It's something I just do once a month or a week. Every morning I get up, I hold my heart and I say thank you. And I breathe. I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive. And my cognition's working and I can put my feet down, I can walk. And I take that time to get to ease into my morning. And then I go outside, walk my dogs, I ground myself, go to the gym, and then I start my day. But I feel like we need to do that as a practice as women. It can't just be like we prioritize, happy hour and, we have work calls, but I don't have time to breathe. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have time to breathe, it'll catch up with you. It's called stress. And that's also a problem. And so just really being present to life. Because to your earlier point, life goes by so fast. There's so much noise coming at us. How do you quiet the noise and embrace the gift of just being, right? It's in that meditation practice that you get that in that breath work time.
And that is so true. And especially, BIPOC women, women of color, or even, our African people, I love y'all, but, our mentality is always on the go. It's like that whole thing of staying still and breathing. It's like, it's a lot of unlearning and to incorporate that. This isn't like something that it's a luxury. Taking care of yourself is not a luxury. It is something that is a must have, it's a necessity and it needs to be integrated within people's lives. Like you said, those happy hours, you can make time for a happy hour. You can go on that trip. You can go shopping. You can do but breathing, this is part of your everyday life just for you to exist. And I know it's a lot because also because you being an empath, you can feel everybody's energy. And so it's very important, as a healer in the work that you're doing to take care of yourself because it becomes overwhelming. So what are the things that you do to disconnect? I know the meditation, but other things, do you do spiritual baths, anything like that, doing disconnect because you're always in big rooms with people, you're talking to a lot of people, you're sitting there with people with trauma and their trauma, some people might do emotional dumping. So all these different things, what do you do to take care of yourself when you take care of everybody else?
I do a lot of things. So there are weekends where I will just get up and go outside and ground. I'll do my morning prayer meditation, but I'll meditate for like an hour or two. I don't talk to anybody, my daughter and my dogs. That's it. And and force God, I go outside and I just, sit outside and I pray, meditate, and just like, I just breathe, let my body just feel, I take out my shoes and just walk outside and just like, how long I need to be out there for, I don't ever count or time it. I just let myself until I feel myself because I'll be like, I get when I'm going, I'm on, and then I'm like, okay, I need to get back to myself. So I can do that. And then I will get like a huge thing of water, like a gallon or two of water. I have two big, like these jugs, I'll get two of them. And I'll just sit and just like drink water and sleep and just all day long, light a candle, sage my house and put some incense. And I just like sleep and I don't get on social media, nothing. Um, I get up and I get up in the morning, usually by like 5:15. I'm at the gym by 6 o'clock latest. And I love like that time because nobody's there. I mean, it's very quiet. So maybe there's like 10 people there, if whatever, and it's very quiet. And I find that there's something sacred about like seeing the sunrise for me. So when I'm like on the way there, or when I even like this morning, I got teary eyed. I was like, at the gym in the morning and I'm thinking I'm so blessed to be alive and awake and everything's working. And I just watched the sun like peek through the trees. And then it was like God talking to me. I'm getting teary eyed. And I was like, oh my God, like that is such a beautiful thing to watch. And in those times I'm giving myself back. I'm talking to God. I'm saying, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna, good morning. Thank you. And I'm like, that's in this, and then, taking care of my body, like lifting weights for a while, an hour running. Those things are things that you can find time to do that are sacred time with yourself that gets you back to yourself. Um, I do sound baths as well. I became a yogi during COVID. So I do yoga, stretching. I do tapping, EFT. I love, love, love. There's this Korean bathhouse next to me where I go, and you just get in the different water. It's hot and cold and different, salt areas, and then doing the scrubs. And so I just find time to just do that. I also began a practice of Maimah days. So Maimah days are Fridays, where I don't take phone calls. I just don't take phone calls. Let myself just really ease into my day and think and breathe. And when I travel a lot, for example, I was inducted into the Zeta Phi Beta sorority incorporated this weekend.
Woo! Congratulations.
Honorary member, and it was wonderful. There were probably like 8,000 women, if not more, in there, and they were all so wonderful. And there's a lot of hugging and energy exchange, and it was beautiful. And then and when I got back, I just, I spent the evening quietly and I'll spend today quietly. So it's kind of like, it's really about, you know, and also I don't play with my sleep. I love my sleep. So like I got back and I knew I've been giving energy out and giving love out and receiving, but giving a lot as an empath, an introvert. When you're out like that, I'm on. When I'm done, I'm like, my body's like, ooh, let's. So I just kind of came home, took a nice tub bath with some salt, had my candles and walk my dogs, and just everything was off, just candles and meditation music and just quiet time. So it's kind of, I don't think that self-care is something you have to just it's part of my ritual. I schedule it in, but I know what I need. So when I need it, I'll tell my assistant like I need time to be with me. My daughter knows me really well. She won't talk. She'll be like, "You good? I'm good." So I also did a book. I think it was 2020. I wrote the book. It's about it's called Unicorn Boss, and it's about being a boss woman and learning how to take care of yourself. And so I like to share things like that as well. But all those things help me to get back to myself. I also see a therapist, regularly. I have a lot of mentors who I check in with, and also I have a relationship with God that I love. I when I was younger, I would go to my friends for advice. I have an whatever, girl, can you talk? Like, and I no, I, don't, I just go to God because no one can give me advice on this planet that knows better than what God knows, he or she. So a lot of my time is spent communicating with God, even before calls, after calls. So self care for me is an all the time thing, and I can go on forever. Just I have, my phone has alarms every hour to just take a breather after every call, take a breather, and just things you can do all the time that I do for me. Um, and as women entrepreneurs, I tell women that you have to rest, but not only rest as in sleeping rest, but give your body time to restore. You can be at rest and not be restoring. And so, we in Black communities and African communities, we have a lot of heart disease. There's diabetes, there's all hypertensions, all these things that our body, dementia, Alzheimer's, those things are all linked in many ways to diet, nutrition, sleep, hydration, even your heart being strong, exercise, weightlifting, what you're putting in on your body. So self care is not just you know, the woo woo stuff. It's really it's honoring your body all the time. And that's something that you have to learn to practice and prioritize as well in your life.
So true. And I love Korean spas also. Those are my go-to.
Oh my God. I go in there, I'm like, whew,
The Ajima will scrub you like a newborn baby.
Jesus Christ. I'm like, that's me? Yeah. I'm like, dang, gone it. That's my skin, but you come out there all shiny, your face all shiny, your body all like a baby seal, you're all like cleaned up.
Oh man, if you haven't tried a Korean spa, please try one. Now going back to when you were younger, you came to this country with not much. You came to this country on faith. From Liberia, and going through all of that, coming there. How was that as a child? Like, I mean, that I know that wasn't easy. Talk to us about that journey, and then finding out that this is, where I need to be in life. Did you always have an idea? I know you said you were an introvert, but was there ever an inkling like, oh, I'm going to be bigger than this in the world?
I introversion for me, people see it sometimes being like it's like a bad thing. I think it's a gift. I mean, because a lot of people are focused on giving energy out, which is beautiful, or doing something. But what, as an introvert, the gift I think that we have as introverts is you're aware of yourself and you're aware of people. So everybody's doing whatever, you're just kind of observing, you're watching, you're like, hey God, what's up with that? What's going on? What do you think? And so I feel like, I always had a feeling that there was something I was meant to do that I couldn't even comprehend. I don't know it was like I just had this connection with God at a young age, and spirit, whatever you want to call him or her, and knew there was more. And so I would watch people, and I would watch, my family and friends and peers. When the wars happened, I would just think, why do people do this? Like, why would you hurt somebody on purpose? And what causes people to be broken in that sense where they could hurt themselves and other people? And how can I help to heal? Right. Um, at an early age, I began I don't know how I knew this. I would see people and I would look at them, and they would come to me. They would attract. Or someone would be really sad, having a bad day, I wouldn't know, or be sad. And I would just go and say something to them that I forget about. And they tell me years later, you told me this. So I kind of had this sense of like something, I don't know what it was. And I also began to have this idea that it was me in this body. But if you were to be able to be bigger than just your body and step aside outside of it and see something, what would you change about your perspective? Because we all think this is my perspective, this is how I see the world, and here's things should work around me this way. And so I began to be able to, like, I would practice like this, like getting like, if I were to be bigger than just Maimah, like outside Maimah, how could I shift things around? How would I think about situation? How could I impact people who are going through, like, who've been hurt by the wars? And so my parents and I, long story short, we escaped the war multiple times, the wars. Um, Two times. The third time, things happened so fast. My dad put me on a plane alone at 15, and that's how I got here. And you know, I didn't realize until 2019 that that was a huge trauma for me, because back then, I mean, nothing about that is normal, but I didn't have. There's no internet. There's no, I didn't have a cell phone, texting, WhatsApp, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, like nothing. So you're on a plane, you just sit on the plane for 15 hours and you come here and you figure out how to get to a cousin's house, and then, hope people come at some point in time. And then, but my parents always said that if you have nothing, if you have your life, that's everything, right? And your health. So I knew that. I just prayed that they would come at some point, all of them. And at some point they did. And again, a lot of my parents' friends, many of them had lost everything in the war. Some had been killed in like just horrible ways. We had our life. So I was like, how do I make this an adventure? I could see it as, oh my God, we lost everything in the war. I could see it as I'm here. Like I think about, books I read as a child, like The Diary of Anne Frank, and imagining her being in that attic and making that into an adventure that's changed millions of people's lives. So if she could do that, I could do that too. So thought about that. And I began to read about leaders who'd gone through challenging times and how they found their gift in that time. So I feel like, sometimes we're pressed, like a diamond, and then you have to figure out, how do you become, despite these, because life's not going to be rosy all the time. So I thought maybe perhaps this thing happened, the wars that happened, this war that has me here, it could be a start of a whole new life for me and my family. And so that's kind of the adventure I began. It wasn't easy to lose everything at 15 years old. One minute you're like in school, planning your future. The next minute you're leaving with one suitcase and that's all you have. Like all my stuff. I used to love to read. My dad said, you can't pack your books, just your clothes and that's it. And so I learned to be grateful for my life, my heartbeat, and my breath. And I learned that if all I have is this, and I can think and I can feel and I can have cognition and I can be a good person, that's enough, right? And so those principles uh, um, got me through every day. And then people were so kind to us. My mom made some friends at church that would bring us food. And, you know, um, people tell me sometimes, you're so lucky. It wasn't luck. It was hard work. I've done cleaning, like people's homes and offices. I've worked receptionist jobs. I used to walk to the bus stop, 3 miles to get to the bus stop to get to work, and on two buses, and be standing in my stockings in the snow and the rain and sleet. Like, but I was determined to make my life what I wanted for it to be, and not lose my sense of optimism and hope. Because once you lose hope for life, and once you lose curiosity, and once you lose that sense of like wonder about life, then you lose that magic. And so those things are things that I kept practicing, and just being determined to create my life on my own terms. Even with breast cancer, I'm not going to let this thing make me into something. I'm not going to let this thing define me. I'm going to become who I'm meant to be, despite the challenge I'm going through. And so I feel like there's certain principles and beliefs I had about myself, about how I wanted to be. I wanted to love people for a living and give back and heal and help and hold. And so with Tigerlily, I could do that. People who were going through something that was really like life altering, I could say, come here, come here, come here, give me your hand. I got you. I'm going to give you a big hug. I love you. I'm listening, and I'll help you through this. And so versus it just being about cancer and disease, it became about, you know, helping to heal dis-ease in people's lives and create transformation. And so in a sense, my sense of wonder and curiosity and hope and designing my life, all that came into my work in Tigerlily. And we really are about transforming women's lives from the inside out as they're getting through their life and health journey. So those are things that I think I brought into it. And when I got sick, though, I will tell you, I remember them telling me, cancer is aggressive, da 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 da. And at some point, I'm like, okay, I can't deal with all this negativity. After chemo, I went to Office Depot one day and I bought those big post-its. And I came home, the ones that you can, stick on the wall and or staple, whatever it was, or tape. And I put it on the wall, like a couple of them. And I began to map out my life. Like I want my life to feel like this. I want it to be like this. My daughter, at the time I got diagnosed, I was working in a job where I would work sometimes and go home like 4 or 5, 6 in the morning. And she was little, but I had, I had to work, right? So I was like, I could just quit this job. People were like, how are you going to manage? I almost died. I'll be fine. And so at some point, after treatment, I quit my job, but I could walk her to school in the mornings, and every single morning walk her to school. Every single day when the school let out, I'm in the front of the line for her. After school, I had her lunch ready, and I would work. I got different jobs. I would do like 3, 4, 5. One time I had 8 consulting jobs in a year, but I would do these different jobs. But I was present for her. I would go to her school and be like, "Hey, I'm surprising you for lunch. I brought you something." And her friends were like, "My parents don't come to have lunch with me," but I created a life that I knew that when I look back on that time, I would appreciate every single moment. And of course, there's challenges in anyone's life, but with my daughter now, we're so close because I intentionally created a life that I would love and that I would be present for. And that's how you create a legacy for the next generation, is by living your best life now. Even as a woman who's no longer 31, I'm still living that intentionality, and she's now doing that too. And so, to answer your question, long answer to a short question, I knew I knew how I wanted my life to feel. I think when you know how you want life to feel and you're being the way that you want it to be in life, you're walking on that path. At some point, it's creating itself every day. It goes back to breath work and being present, right? Then the story writes itself out, and the path is like you look back and it's a path that you walked because you made that path, and that's kind of how I've always been. And I love it. I mean, always growing, but I love it.
I love it, and I love that dynamic with your daughter and you being present and knowing the value of the presence of being in your daughter's life. Even going through all the things that you were going, you still remain present for yourself and for your daughter. And some people, they just sometimes they see that they have to be on the go, and it's like, oh my God, the world's going to end if I don't. But they're going to continue even if you're not there.
I would tell you two things. So I've heard people say, especially Black women I work with in this space, I'll sleep when I'm dead, and they're they're doing all the things, and I'm like, I want to I want to sleep while I'm here so I could be here longer and be healthier. When I'm dead, I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, that's a whole other situation, but I don't want to work to where I'm not enjoying my life and where I'm like, okay, I'm so exhausted and burned out, I can't be present to my life, right? Um, Also, there's this, I see on Instagram a lot, this hustle and grind, and people being this images of like everybody's like on a yacht or perfectly dressed, and everybody's like successful and everything. All these things are perfect, and those things are not true. We all struggle, and I feel like I don't want to hustle and grind. I used to be that way. I used to hustle and grind, and I used to go so hard, and I do go, but I want to go with intention, not with hardness. I don't want to go hard and fast. I want to go with presence and purpose, and where I'm. People say one thing. People say to me, they'll say like, "You're so busy." I'm like, "I'm never busy. I'm on purpose." So like when you have a life of intentionality like that, you're on purpose. You're in your life, and you're not rushing, and you're not hustling and grinding, and you can say, you know what, I appreciate the opportunity you want to offer me, but I just need time for me. Nothing that's for you will ever not be with you, right? So it'll come back, or it'll come back better. um it's so important that anybody watching this is like, it's okay to slow down. It's okay to pause. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say not right now, but it's not okay to not say yes to yourself. Because if without your health, I've had people that I love, women in this space who do breast cancer and other cancer work, who went hard and hard and hard and gave till the end. But when they died, you know what happened? The sun went down. In the morning, it rose and life kept going, but they're gone, right? And so it just a reminder to me to always like live with intention, live with purpose. And again, never busy, just on purpose all the time.
Oh, that is the quote of the year. Never busy, on purpose. Oh, I love this. And this reminds me, today I wore Frida Kahlo's scarf right here, and it reminds me of your story of how you take something even with trauma and transfer it into something beautiful. she suffered through her trauma, and she transformed all of that through her art. And just seeing women nowadays coming from trauma and turning it into something beautiful, how do you see in regards to women as they're changing, they're identifying trauma, they are emerging and actually blooming into something different? It's always been them, but now they're seeing their true selves. What does that mean to you when it looks at the future of leadership now in this country and in the world?
That's a loaded question. I feel like sometimes trauma can be, it could be, again, I use the word catalyst, because like when I went through the wars and there are things I saw as a child that I was so, shocking that I forgot them. And then series of things happened in 2019 where I went through a period of like intense trauma where I began having panic attacks. And the panic attacks were immobilizing. I couldn't leave the house. I was like going through, what do you call it, agoraphobia. And I couldn't drive. I was just like, I couldn't drive. I was just so overwhelmed. I kept having them all the time. And they were like constant. But what happened was that the panic attacks triggered trauma I'd forgotten. And it was a really hard time. I was like thinking, oh my God, am I going to be normal again? Am I going to be able to get on a stage again? Am I going to, if anyone knew that I'm Maimah Karmo, speaker, author, like best-selling, sitting here in the bed shaking and crying for I can't breathe, like how would the world perceive me? But I look back on that time is that, you know, that the trauma that was inside of me, thinking that was manifesting as Maimah, that wasn't really me. The panic attacks like triggered my body expressed all the pain. It came out through the panic attacks, through the shaking. And I began to learn tools that allow me to release things that I'd forgotten about, but that were making me, or that were in a sense my identity, right? And so I'm like, oh, all that was carrying with me all the time, that whatever it was wasn't really me, it was just inside of me that came out, and the real me was allowed to be released. It was really beautiful in the end of it when they all kind of came out. um and it made me a softer person, a more gentle person, a more understanding person. And I didn't see my trauma as something that was negative. After I dealt with it, I saw it as something that was transformative, because I knew myself in all the ways I could be, right? And I let it make me become better than I thought I could be. I think also too in life, in this country, in this world that we're in. So there's trauma. We all have trauma. Like you learn to understand it. You learn to say, I love you. I see you. I thank you. Okay. Thank you. Bye for now. Like, thank you. Just, I appreciate you, and then release it. But I think there's also a thing where people are like, they want to just, how do I say, it's a trauma culture. Everybody's talking about trauma all the time. Like, come on. Like, we all have stuff, but how do you understand it, process it, and then tell it thank you, and say goodbye, and not look for it all the time. There's an author I love, and she's a meditation guru. Her name's Sarah Blondin, and she talks about not looking for your pain. People they look for things. This happened to me, that happened to me. And the story's told over and over again about these horrible things that happened to you. What happens when you keep telling the same story about, things that happened to you that were bad or hurtful, is that you remember those things. You put them back together again. And so when you learn to tell a new story, one of that happened, but I'm here now. That happened, I blessed and released it. That happened, but this is me now, today. Then you learn to tell a new story, and you create a new story, one of healing, one of hope, and one of where you can just let stuff go. Because when you carry around your trauma, you're carrying around this like Atlas, this huge mountain all the time, this bag you can't put down, and you're not freed up to really be yourself, and be high vibe, high energy, or even to be present to your life, because you're living in the past. And so I have respect for trauma. I've been through so many things, more than we can even discuss on this call. But I've told it, I see you. You protected me. I appreciate you. I love you for taking care of me, for being there. But that's not who I am today. This is who I am now. I think that's important as well. And that is a true sense of strength, is to say that those things don't define me. They informed me, but they don't define me. I define me going forward.
Exactly. And to all the listeners out there, knowing that, your trauma is one bit of the story, but there's so many layers to you, and honing that and turning that into your strength as a leader. And also being, emotionally intelligent when leading others that you want to see high productivity and understanding the needs of people. Because everybody's going through their own situations. Um,
And that's to your point, that's being kind. I feel like if someone had told me that before that they had a panic attack, and I'd be like, well, I would be like, okay, well, I thought panic attacks were anxiety attacks. I wouldn't understand that. Or I wouldn't understand why someone couldn't leave their house. Or I wouldn't understand how someone could be like so depressed that they like couldn't function. But I went through a period of that from around 2019, 2021, it was like 2 or 3 years where I was just like, it was like, oh my God. And I would never want that time back, but I began to understand what depression feels like, what, panic feels like, what deep sadness feels like, and so I think that certain things make you much more humble, much more understanding, much less judgmental, and make you softer to other people's pain, because people tend to sometimes gloss over other people's things. Well, you know what, get over that. Or, what you depressed, just what are you depressed about? You're blessed, you're beautiful, you have da 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 da. But mental health is a real thing, and so there's, room for that, I think, to be compassionate, be kinder. And people have things sometimes that are not even just that are medically, induced, right? So you can't just say you're having a bad day. So it just gave me a different layer of respect for people who deal with mental health issues, because I've been through that. And some of my people I know have been through worse than myself. Um, but it gave me a sense to also of like, I'm not ashamed of what I've been through. That's whether it's uh, a medical condition or not. Don't be ashamed of where you've been through, and it doesn't have to define who you are either, right? You can still deal with that and choose to still push through and share. And sometimes when you share what you're going through, it can be very empowering and help to free you in a way as well.
and on saying that, we always ask this question. So, Maimah, in this journey in your life right now, who are you in this moment? Who are you?
Hmm. I am free. I'm free.
That's powerful. Not a
Yeah,
lot of people can say that.
I'm free. It's an incredible feeling to feel free. And there's a girl, forget her name. She was on, I think, American Idol, probably the wrong show, but I think it was Mockingbird. Forget her name. She was beautiful, and she sang, and Simon gave her the buzzer that everything rains down. But she said you can't wait for life to be perfect to be happy. You can't wait for things to be the way you want them to be. To maybe it's not happiness, maybe it's just being content. And I think, like, for me, those kind of things, I look for ways to just embrace. I've been talking about the present, and when you can just be yourself and be in your authentic body, mind, and spirit, and center yourself and love. Like, there's a sense of like not being restrained by other people, other things. Like, my friends will laugh at me. They'll call me and say, "Did you see? You know what happening with so and so and so?" I'm like, "What happened?" They're like, "Do you watch the news?" And no, like, I feed. I don't know what's going on half the time, because I only go on and I go on to check, but I don't let other people's energy inform me. I dictate what I want to be in my mind, right? And so, like, when you can do things like that and you can release and you can have a practice, it gives you a sense of freedom that you can't really put into dollars, or you can't quantify, because nothing can contain who you are. And when you have that connection with spirit, with God, whatever you call God, source, like, that's uh, that sense of freedom is like extraordinary. And so that's what I want other people to have. And again, I will say this, it's not, I don't always feel 100% zen. There are days when I'm just like, oh, or I'm overwhelmed, or, oh my God, today was so hard. And then there are days when I'm like, child, what are you talking about? Like, you're fine. So life's about ebb and flow. And so just kind of being patient with yourself as you're ebbing and flowing is really important too. Yeah, but I feel free right now.
That's
And it's a
beautiful.
blessing.
Yeah, it's a blessing to understand that form of freedom. I think freedom is the new rich, honestly. I think being able to be free. Um, and one thing, the last thing that we usually ask everybody is if you could tell the younger version of yourself something, what would you tell that younger version of yourself?
I would say you are safe. You're safe. I will send you after we talk. I wrote something. The year that I was having all like the panic attacks, those 2.5, 3 years, um, I just was like, it was like just felt like so unsafe in the world. So all the trauma from the wars and things I'd been through came back, and I felt so like in my body was like acting up and expressing all these things. I'm like, just calm down. And then I don't know what I just one day I sat down and did a lot of like I did like butterfly hugs and tapping and use all my tools, my EFT tools, and I just wrote this poem and I just started crying as writing it. It was a poem to my younger self, and it was just talking to her and saying, "I see you, feel you, I'm holding you. Just breathe. You are okay and you're safe." And I think that's what all of us want to feel, right? We want to feel a sense of freedom in our lives and sense of being safe. And whether it's trauma or mental health or even being a badass and moving to your future, we want to feel freedom. We want to feel safe in our bodies and our lives to be able to move in that space. And so I just tell her you're safe. And then when I feel myself in any way feeling like, I just say, "You're safe. I love you. Yeah, you're safe." And I just hold my heart like that and
Um,
hug myself. Breathe, hug again.
aw.
Yeah.
And we always take a moment to just, place our hands on our heart and just send some love to all of our inner childs and just thank them for just being there and still supporting us here in the present. We thank you. We love you and we honor you. Mm, yes.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for being here today. It was an honor and a pleasure for you sharing your beautiful story, your beautiful light. And you already know you're representing Africa and America. Oh,
I love it, my sister. This was wonderful. You're so amazing. And thank you for this time and this space and the energy. I love it. And
oh,
love all of our watchers or listeners. God bless you. Namaste. Be blessed.
definitely. And make sure you check out www.tigerlilyfoundation.org. Support and donate. Love you all. Remember that life may throw you a curveball, but you already know that you always are in charge of the direction it goes. So love you, and see you next time on
Oh,
the next.
one more thing. So our Empower Ball is October 10th
Go
at
ahead.
the Waldorf Astoria in DC. So visit the website, get tickets, and we'll see you at the Empower Ball in October.
Definitely support and donate also. Support and donate. All right.
Yes.
You all lost love. All right.